Greetings to you all. In this video I will try to fix this Marantz AV7705 processor / preamplifier. The problem is that it has 5 faulty HDMI inputs, otherwise it's fully functional. Marantz AV7705 is a great AV preamplifier even in 2022. It has most of the features that you would possibly need to build a great entertainment system in your house. I will share my thoughts on why these HDMI inputs failed a little bit later. Also, I have to add that I don't do repairs professionally, it's more of a hobby to me. I've used information which I found on the web to troubleshoot and repair this unit. Bear that in mind if you'll be fixing your own unit using this video. Great! Just before I start, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to this channel, follow me on Instagram, or even consider supporting future videos on Patreon. All links are included in the description. Here we are. This is Marantz AV7705. It has one HDMI input at the front panel, which works perfectly fine, and 7 HDMI inputs at the rear. Unfortunately, 5 of them are faulty. No signal is detected when I connect the HDMI source to those inputs. When I'm trying to run HDMI diagnostics, it fails the test every time. To get a better understanding of what happened, I found a schematic diagram of digital PCB of this unit. This PCB has 2 HDMI switchers. Signal from HDMI inputs 5, 6 and 7 goes to switcher 1, and signal from HDMI inputs 1, 2, 3 and 4 goes to switcher 2. I know that inputs 1 to 5 are faulty. This allows me to make a conclusion that there was some kind of electrical impact on one of the first 4 HDMI inputs, which roasted switcher 2 and a section of switcher 1. That explains why the other half of the HDMI switcher 1 is still working. In addition to that, the HDMI input 8, which is located at the front panel, goes directly into the HDMI receiver of the next chip in chain, and it avoided damage and still functional. So, knowing that, I had 2 options. Take the digital PCB out and send it to a company which could replace those 2 HDMI switchers and possibly the HDMI transmitter, or order a brand new PCB. First option probably would have been a bit cheaper but less reliable, as hitting a multi-layered PCB might have caused even more damage. So I decided to order a digital PCB replacement. Because of the supply chain problems and global digital component shortage, its price skyrocketed up to £499. Very expensive, but hey, what can I do? Alright, the next task is to extract the old PCB. I will remove the top cover first. Next, I have to disconnect all the cables which are linking digital PCB with the other parts of AV7705. First goes switched mode power supply port cable. Next, the HDMI patch cable which links the socket on the front panel and the input on the digital PCB. This is an extension cable for USB socket, which is also located at the front panel. And the last one is this black ribbon cable, which links front and digital PCBs. Oh, and I almost forgot to disconnect these 2 tiny Wi-Fi Bluetooth antenna extension cables. Next, I have to undo 70 different screws in order to remove the rear panel. By the way, I'm doing it manually without any electrical screwdrivers. I believe it makes this scene look more epic. Here we go. Digital PCB is ready to be extracted. In order to avoid any damage, I will put this cardboard in between the boards. Security screw between the digital PCB and side CNT has to be undone next. Now, with the use of this prying tool, I can carefully loosen up the connectors between two boards. Same procedure has to be done between digital PCB and front CNT. Just to mention, the front CNT is the board where all digital to analog converters are located. This plastic security pin has to be removed before I start prying the connectors. I can now slowly separate all three boards. Two things left to do on this board. First is to remove this metal bracket, and the second is to extract the network module, which will later migrate on the new digital PCB. Great! Old PCB now can be retired and it's time to unpack the new one. It took about a week for it to arrive after I have placed the order. It was very well packed with numerous layers of bubble wrap and an anti-static bag. Alright, I think it's time for the network module to take its place. After it is secured with 4 screws, a new digital PCB can be installed. This operation was a bit stressful. I needed to be very careful to avoid damaging the new part. Yet I needed to be sure that all the connectors are back in their place and tightly connected. Now I'm going to put the rear panel back and secure it with a couple of screws in case something goes wrong and I don't have to undo all of the 70 screws again. All cables can be connected and I think the unit is ready to be switched on for the first time. According to the instructions, it has to be initialized after replacing the microcomputer, any peripheral equipment or the digital PCB. It's quite an easy operation. While the unit is switched off, I have to hold movie and music buttons simultaneously and press the power button. When the display starts flashing with 1 second intervals, it confirms that the operation is complete and I can release the buttons. My next step would be to run the HDMI diagnostics to make sure that unit operates correctly and the problem is fixed. After I have connected my Apple TV to HDMI input 1 and AV7705 with the TV, I can run the test. In order to do so, I have to hold back and up buttons simultaneously for at least 3 seconds. I will run the auto test, skip the cable test as it's working fine, run the video and audio tests too. Unit has passed all 3 tests and now it is ready to be reassembled. Great! To make sure that this unit operates as it should, I'm going to connect it to my system. Finish the setup and calibration process and upgrade the firmware, of course. After running AV7705 in my system for the next couple of days, I can confirm that it operates as it should. Now, what may have caused the damage of the HDMI switchers? If you would read the user manual carefully, you would find a note that warns you not to plug or unplug any cables when the power cord is connected. As soon as you plug your unit into the wall socket, the switched mode power supply powers up the digital PCB, even if your unit is switched off. If you want to avoid any damage to the inner components, please make sure that you never hot plug your HDMI cables. I have a strong feeling that was exactly what happened to this Marantz AV7705. Great! I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video and maybe even found it useful. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the new videos that I am preparing for you. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.